Hey guys, Zabub here, and before we start today's episode, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for the support that you showed on my last video and the happy birthday wishes. I kind of figured that after January, February, and most of March that my channel will be kind of dead due to the inactivity, but it means a lot that I still have like a core audience. It really does touch my heart more than you guys know that I've built this little community, and I want to be here for you guys just as much as you are for me, so I really appreciate it. I want to start streaming soon. I don't know if you guys would be interested in seeing horror games or just any games. I got my hands on Hades 2 recently for a birthday gift, and to be honest, I kind of wanted to stream that. If you guys are interested, let me know. And yeah, I know things are looking a little bit scary in the world right now, but let's all come together for some nice stories, try to take our minds off of things for a little bit. I'll always try to be here for you guys, so thank you. And let's get started with the next episode of Tales from the Gas Station. Hey everybody, it's me, Jerry, from the gas station at the edge of town. Proud to be the newest member of the team. The owners were so impressed with how I managed to stay alive in the store for several days without leaving or going insane, that they offered me a full-time position, while the regular clerk is out recovering from his leg injury. Happy Monday, y'all! Now, the other guy did ask me to do him a small favor while he's getting some much-needed rest and relaxation. He gave me the password to his laptop and detailed instructions to transcribe his journal entries from last week. In exchange, he agreed to keep me on as a full-time assistant after he gets back. I get to learn what to expect on the job through first-hand documentation, and he gets to continue his weird little blog thing. Now that's what I call a win-win. If I'm being honest, this is probably the best thing that could have happened to me right now. Ever since the program mysteriously dissolved at the mathematist community, I've been feeling very lost and honestly kind of vulnerable. I've been losing weight and having trouble sleeping, and when I do, I keep having these weird dreams of something enormous being deep below the gas station, waiting to devour us all. Clearly, a mistake was made and I was overlooked. If any of my old brothers and sisters are out there and are listening, please contact me. Tell the seniors that they forgot about me. I'm not mad. I miss you. I love you. Now, before I get started, some guys in suits came by and suggested that if this blog were to continue, that I should make a PSA. If there is anybody still alive that listened to the story about what happened here on Halloween, don't wait for symptoms to start. Please, go to the nearest emergency room and call the Center for Disease Control and tell them that you are experiencing the effects of Rommel syndrome. Anyway, back to the journals. I'm going to do my best because this guy's handwriting is awful. But here's the parts that I could read. November 7th, 2007, 7 p.m. The man in the trench coat was standing out back when I went to go take out the garbage tonight. I don't know why the man in the trench coat keeps visiting my store, or why I've never gotten a good look at him. He was standing at the tree line, just beyond the dumpsters, staring as he ever did. Tonight, though, I stared back. The hinges of his jaw began halfway up his face, where his nose should have been. The edges pulled back to either ear in a skeletal grin. His tiny, milky white eyes were beads beyond the oily black hairline that hung down straight in bangs all the way to his cheek jowl. His impossibly wide mouth bisected the head between the greasy hair and wet flesh. Drool, I would assume. We sit there, 15 feet apart, staring at one another for what must have been 10 seconds, or maybe 10 minutes, until finally, the man in the trench coat turned away. His legs bent funny, in a way that human legs really shouldn't have been able to, and he landed on all fours before galloping off into the woods. I don't know if I've seen the last of the man in the trench coat. Holy shit! Did you guys read that? Or hear that? That's some crazy shit! Sorry, Jerry again. I promise I'm not going to do the running commentary thing. I had to say. Jesus, you know, that's some weird stuff. I mean, I remember him telling me a couple of weeks ago to go outside and talk to a man in a trench coat. Super glad I didn't now. What the hell? Okay, that's it. I'm done. Back to the transcriptions. The next page is soaked in blood and completely unreadable, so I'm going to have to skip that part. Hundreds and hundreds of them. She had never seen so many in one place before, not even in her dreams. Before she left, she told me that I could see her again. Was that supposed to be a warning or a flirtation? 3:23 a.m. It's a quieter night than what I'm used to. The package from yesterday afternoon still sits on the counter where I left it. The label is made out to me, with a return address that I don't recognize. The rectangular parcel is wrapped like a Christmas present with red and yellow stripes and feels heavy. I would say that it's just the right size for a dead cat. Honestly, I can't think of any realistic reason I shouldn't open the package, but there is something in the back of my mind telling me that to open this would be tantamount to opening Pandora's box. That the contents of this little parcel will irrevocably change the course of my life in a way that may have seemed impossible before. I feel like this box is full of butterflies, ready to create tsunamis, and I'm just not sure if I'm ready for that yet. I think I'm going to watch Marlboro and teach him how to clean the drink machines. 3:47 a.m. Marlboro is passed out in a hammock in the supply closet. I think he finished the bottle on his own. I guess I'll have to clean the drinks machines by myself then. 5:45 a.m. The hand plants are growing a lot faster than I anticipated. They're now to the elbows and almost past the shoulders. I saw that the crop had caught a curious coyote that got a little bit too close. It was not pretty. I also noticed that Rocco's still alive. I caught him sitting on the roof, tossing food to the crop of hand plants. See, this is why they're growing so fast. They're eating way too much, and if this gets out of control, I may have to torch the crop just like all the others. I don't want to. It sends shivers down my spine whenever I hear them scream. 7:30 a.m. Diego came in for his morning shift looking pretty terrible. He filled up on coffee and told me that he hadn't been sleeping all too well. The bad dreams had been keeping him from getting a restful night. I wonder if I should tell Diego about my condition. He asked about the gift wrap package sitting on the counter. I told him that it came with the post yesterday, and I didn't know who it was from. He asked if I was going to open it, and I told him that I had a bad feeling and pretty much decided to never, ever open it. 10 a.m. I decided to open the package. Without any fanfare or drumroll, I'll just tell you that what I found inside was a brand new laptop computer. I've never owned my own laptop before. The only computer that ever belonged to me was this crappy little Tandy 1000 that I put together as a kid. I've always used a library computer lab or the browser on my phone to access the internet. This could be a game changer. The box also contains a signal repeater and some other gizmos. I know this is crazy, but I think I might actually be able to access the internet from the gas station now. There was a handwritten note at the bottom of the package. Hello, I left a comment on your page. There's something that I've been wanting to tell you. I'm enjoying listening to these stories that you're writing about, but I think if you actually sat down and write out one story at a time, then you'll get a lot more upvotes. It's very good. I'm not saying that it's bad, but right now it just seems like a whole lot of half stories thrown together. I think you'd do great if you actually wrote out a whole story at a time. I bet you could get a lot of upvotes and attention. It gets kind of confusing right now. Maybe start when you got there and work your way up to now. I bet that would be super awesome. I'm so fascinated, but a little muddled as well. I can tell you have a great talent for writing, but I just thought that maybe I'd offer a suggestion to help. Please do not take offense. It's something that I was thinking. Hope all is going well for you. Also, do you mind slowing down a little bit? Sometimes your narration's a little fast. Great. Another one of my listeners tracked me down. I'm seriously gonna have to figure out how people keep doing this and put a stop to this. Thank you, whoever you are, for the laptop. I'm definitely keeping it. 10:15 a.m. I turned on the Wi-Fi card and I noticed that, for some reason, there are like a dozen secured networks around the gas station, most of which have like 4 or 5 bars. The name for their networks are pure gobbledygook, like this one. 1E, 7G, 7C, 7TA, 11 GUY, 23, 23, 23, 1324. Who the hell is transmitting Wi-Fi out here? 11 a.m. A man came into the store to buy a gas can a couple of hours ago. I didn't think much of it at the time, but then he came back in, asking if we could help him out with something down the road. I never got his name, but he was a pretty big guy, tan skin and a thick beard too. He said that he was having car problems, but I told him that I wasn't a car guy. But he insisted that he didn't need a car guy, he just needed someone else to see what he was seeing. Marlboro agreed to watch the counter while Diego and I followed the bearded man down the hill and around the curve, close to the spot where Diego saw that thing in the woods. He couldn't remember what happened that night. After we got everything sorted out with Spencer and things started to go back to normal, I asked Diego about what he saw in the woods that sent him running into such a careless panic, but he just shook his head and said that he didn't know. The mind is a funny thing, and memories aren't the most reliable. I remember that I'm the only person on the gas station with the list of try and forget stories. The man's car was parked on the other side of the road, close to the same spot of Kiefer's SUV that was broken down. "So, my car started acting funny," the guy said as we neared his vehicle. I began to wonder why he had walked this whole way when our own vehicle would have been quite useful in case of a dead battery or a random bear attack. The guy kept going. "I pulled over onto this side of the road when my electricals all started going haywire. I killed the engine, and when I tried to turn it on again, nada." I could see at this point that the hood was open. A man driving a big black SUV similar to the one Kiefer owned, but it was newer and kind of shinier. "I don't see what's so weird about that. But you need us to call you a tower?" The man cut Diego off, rudely I might add. "I popped the hood, but everything was in order. I thought it maybe just needed some gas, so I went up to the station. That's when I got back and I saw this." We rounded the front of his car and we saw this that he was being so vague about. A small oak tree, maybe 4 or 5 years old, was growing up from the ground beneath the car, through the engine and stretched upwards at least 9 feet. The trunk of the tree had swallowed a decent portion of the engine, and from the looks of it, the car had been parked there for years. "Well, interesting," I said. "And you're sure that wasn't there when you started driving?" Before he could answer, he spun his head around and looked at the forest. "You boys hear that?" he asked. We stood there, still, and listened, but I couldn't hear anything. "No," I answered. Diego just shrugged. "You boys know what an anglerfish is?" the bearded man asked as he walked to the back of his car door and opened it. "Yeah, I guess," I answered. The bearded man pulled up a secret compartment from beneath the floorboard and retrieved a large automatic rifle. I'm really not a gun guy, and I can't tell you what kind of gun that it was, but it was big and impressive and pretty cool looking. The guy checked the clip and clicked something on the gun that could have been the safety. Again, I'm not a gun guy, but it sounded super cool though. Diego put a hand on my shoulder and slowly backed away from the man with the gun, pulling me with him. But the man didn't seem to mind us one bit. He was focused on whatever he had heard in the woods. "If I'm right, you boys have an anglerfish in them woods. It's putting something out there to lure me in. Make me think that I'm hearing something that I'm not. And then, when I go looking for the thing, bam! It attacks." "Oh, like a siren?" I asked. The man looked over at me with his shoulder, and he smirked. "Yeah, like a siren. Y'all may want to get out of here. This could get dangerous. Don't worry about me. I've dealt with these types of things before. I'll be fine." The man pointed his gun and marched straight into the woods, while Diego and I made our way back to the gas station. 2 p.m. It's time for me to go home. I haven't used the laptop yet, but maybe tomorrow I'll start to type up these journals. November 8th, 6 p.m. It's getting dark so early these days. I noticed that the bearded man's SUV is still at the bottom of the hill with a tree growing through it. I really wouldn't call that a good sign. 11. I burned the rest of the hand plants. I finally know what's going on, actually. A long time ago, I noticed what looked like strange mushrooms growing in a patch near the dumpster behind the gas station. I didn't think much about them, except that it was strange that Rocco's brood wouldn't go anywhere near them. And when I took a closer look, I could have sworn that they looked just like baby fingers poking out of the ground. And as the weather got warmer, I kept an eye out on the crops. They started getting longer and looking more and more distinguishable, similar to human fingers. I swear they even started growing fingernails at some point. Sometimes I would even see them bend the digits to squash a bug that would wander too close. Eventually, the mushrooms started sprouting leaves, and the finger sections continued to stretch out, creating what could only be described as hands. Human hands. They would ball up in a fist during the daytime and open up in the moonlight. I dug one of them up one day when we were really slow at work, and I called Farmer Jr. to ask for his professional opinion. To the untrained eye, the hand plant looked just like a regular human hand. Smaller than an adult's, but larger than a child's. Adolescent. Teenager, maybe. At the wrist, it turned into a gnarled hand root that smelt like sassafras. And throughout the plant, tiny leaves were sprouting. Farmer Jr. stood in the gas station looking it over for a while before asking me if we had any more of those things. I lied and told him no. I asked the owners what they wanted me to do. They thought it over for a couple of days and then told me to keep them. I think they expected to be able to make some money off of them somehow, but eventually, everyone forgot that they were there. Everyone but me. And, well, Farmer Jr., of course. I was thinking about the bearded man when I first heard the sound of a baby crying somewhere outside. I was alone in the store, and my first instinct was not the heroic one that most people may have had, to run outside and see whether the poor baby was okay. My first instinct was a little bit more callous and rational, in the form of a question. How the hell did a baby get out here without me hearing it coming? Something wasn't right. The sound of the cries, which I could deduce were coming from the tree line, were getting louder and louder and more desperate. I looked around for Marlboro, but I couldn't find him anywhere. And if I was going to investigate the potential forest baby, I was going to have to do it alone. I remember the bearded man hearing the siren's call of the thing that he called an anglerfish. I remember Diego's sound of crunching in the strega, and absolutely no part of me wanted to believe that I would be safe if I went into the woods, or that there was really a baby crying out there. But what if? I grabbed a flashlight and went out back. The crying seemed to be moving deeper into the forest, quickly, like the baby crying were being carried off by something that didn't have to stop and move around the trees or physical barriers. I walked into the forest just far enough to find the last thing that I would ever expect. It seems that the hand plants had extended slightly further than the little patch outside of the gas station. Those plants that I had been watching and burning whenever they got too aggressive were not as controlled as I had previously believed, because out here, just a few steps into the woods, was a hand plant that I had missed, that I never trimmed or culled or burned, that was left free to grow as large and as wild as it possibly could. Out here was a hand plant that had grown so large that it had fallen over. It had grown past the shoulders. It had grown its own head and torso and crotch and legs. Out here was a full human body, covered in tiny little leaves, huddled on the ground and attached to the soil by thick talons of brown roots. And the weirdest part of it all? The body was one that I recognized. The body, the fully grown hand plant, it was Kiefer. I don't know what possessed me to touch him. Maybe I just wanted to make sure that he was real, as if touching him would prove that one way or the other. But when I did, his eyes opened, and he cracked a smile. Now, he cannot move, the roots had him firmly stuck in place, but this Kiefer could talk, and talk he did. We stayed out there, talking for over an hour. Now, I won't go into everything that the Kiefer plant said, but I will say this. There's something under the gas station. Something big and powerful, something plotting, and I've been working for years in a cloud of this dark god's farts. I felt extra terrible setting the fully developed Kiefer plant on fire after I'd burned the rest of the crop. But honestly, what choice did I have? When I got back to the gas station, Spencer was waiting for me. He knew, I knew, and I knew that he knew I knew. I was halfway expecting what came next, but not expecting him to enjoy himself quite so much. Spencer blocked the front doors, and then proceeded to beat the crap out of me. I'd like to say I gotten a few good hits in as well, but, well, that would be a huge lie. I don't even think I laid a single finger on him. Although, I did mess his knuckles up pretty good with my face, so I got that going for me. Spencer dragged me across the gas station to the hallway past the bathrooms, past the walk-in cooler, to that big, strange door that I'd only just noticed a couple weeks ago. If it were possible for me to pass out, I'm sure I would be unconscious right now. "Why are you doing this?" I asked as he banged on the door 3 times. There was a sound from the other side, and then Spencer yelled, "Open up! It's me!" The door cracked open, and Spencer dragged me into a room that I had never seen before. It looked like an old office. There was a desk next to a wall full of monitors with security feeds from all over the store and the perimeter. Security feeds from cameras that I didn't even know existed. In the middle of the room was a large hole that looked like it had been created with a team of jackhammers. "It's time for you to meet my boss," Spencer said as he dragged me to the edge of the hole. "Kiefer?" I said, to which Spencer let out a hearty laugh. "No, not Kiefer. My boss put Kiefer out there and hired me to watch him. My boss is much bigger than some idiot politician." I half expected Spencer to go into the cliche movie villain exposition rant, but instead, he sparted me right into this hole. I think my leg is broken. At least I assume that's what the bone poking out means, but hey, I am no doctor. I'd be really worried right now if it weren't for the fact that I stole Spencer's cell phone in the scuffle. Just as I expected, Spencer has the same network as Kiefer, which means that he somehow has service. I put out a call to Tom's direct number, so I'm sure he'll be sending along pretty shortly. Until he gets here, I'm just passing the time by updating my journals. Somebody just dropped a laptop into this hole with me. Maybe it was Spencer. Maybe he thinks that I'm dead. And shit, maybe I am. Again, I'm not a doctor. Whoever it was, I think I might have heard the sound of boot spurs clicking against the tile as he walked away. I guess I'll just boot this thing up and start transcribing my journal notes before it is too late. Okay, so that is the last of his journals. You're probably wondering to yourself, where was Jerry while Spencer was beating the crap out of poor old Jack? Well, I had gone into town to see a movie. Yes, I went to watch Thor Ragnarok. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It is awesome. I guess I'm lucky that I went when I did. Otherwise, the Spencer guy might have tossed me into that hole as well. I was the one that found Jack. When I came back to the gas station, I couldn't find anyone anywhere. So I went searching until I noticed that the door at the edge of the hall was cracked open slightly. I also found a really poorly made bomb behind the register, but it didn't take that long to disassemble. You can thank the mandatory bomb building classes at the mathematician program for that. No big deal. Just me being my typical heroic self. I asked Diego to help me haul Jack up out of the hole, and then Diego moved him to an undisclosed location for a few days while his leg mends. When he gets back, I'll let him have his laptop and continue his little blog thing. Until then, it's just me, Diego, and the raccoons. Oh man, how does Jack usually end these things? Oh yeah. To be continued.